Alright everybody, so the My Hero Academia chapter 333 spoilers just released on Discord and on Twitter, and let me tell you, from where we once left off on chapter 332, I honestly thought that 333 would have switched over to the hero side of things so that we can go see what's going on over there, but boy was I sorely mistaken, and I'm glad I was. And this chapter definitely does not disappoint for speculation or action. I mean, you guys can see from the panels on screen that this stuff is gonna get really crazy. I love whenever they go into the Vestige world because there it seems like anything can pretty much happen. So the chapter begins with Shigaraki / All For One saying that he absolutely did not want for New Order to meet up with One For All. I assume that they mean in the Vestige world. Furthermore, his original plan was to steal OFA and then go after New Order. Star's recklessness, however, threatened to make this scenario a reality and forced him to act even though his body was in an incomplete state. So with the merger between AFO and Shigaraki not fully complete, I wonder if that was sort of the chink in the armor, so to say, that New Order exposed, and that's how it was able to get into the Vestige world. And thus you see Star and Stripe kind of pulling away Shigaraki from AFO. Now I wonder if this is kind of reducing that progress from 98 to whatever percentage under that, since it's kind of like they're splitting apart in this image. But once Shigaraki had his hand over her face, Star actually had a little bit of time to say the command, Kathleen Bate will not turn to dust. But this, however, was past the limits of her powers, so it originally failed. So I guess that was the second motive of Shigaraki once he touched Star's forehead, one to steal New Order and then to kill her. All For One actually takes note of this fact, saying that she couldn't actually do two rules that protected both her body and quirk, so she just went for her body instead, allowing for Shigaraki to take the quirk. All For One, sure of his victory, says that he has won, and says that he really will be able to create the fantastic world of comic books that he read with his brother. He then goes on to use the quirk New Order and says that the atmosphere will, but before he can finish the sentence, he finds himself in the Vestige world face to face with Star and Stripe. Then Shigaraki's body starts to twitch and then it explodes. So when I first viewed the leak panel of this actually happening, I thought one of two things, and I'm actually starting to think that it's the second option that's more in line with what's happening. The first thing I thought was that Star and Stripe somehow rigged the quirk to explode once Shigaraki took it, because I guess she thought that she didn't have enough time. Now at the time it made sense to me, but then I quickly thought maybe because Shigaraki wasn't complete and that he already has All For One in him, the introduction of another Vestige would just send his body into a state that it couldn't really handle, thus the explosion. She then says that blowing up her friend's jet definitely would not be enough to kill Shigaraki, so she then places a rule directly on her own quirk. New Order will revolt against other quirks, and that's when we see the page of Star and Stripe fighting against All For One in the Vestige world. Okay, so I guess I was technically right when I said that she rigged the quirk, only it just wasn't to explode, rather to just revolt against the other quirks inside of Shigaraki / All For One. Star says that she didn't just let her quirk be stolen to protect herself, but to rather finish off AFO from within himself, because between putting an end to a global threat and getting out of this fight alive, the answer couldn't be more obvious. She thanks her friends for all that they have done so far, and meanwhile, All For One can't even get around to the situation because all he can do is steal and give quirks. He can't simply just delete them. He even considers giving them to the pilots, but they shoot him with lasers, and all say that they can't let Star's sacrifice be in vain. All For One even thinks about doing something about stopping the lasers, but the inner Star and Stripe just ended up destroying the reflect quirk that AFO had in store. And while the real Star and Stripe almost fully turned into dust, she thanks All Might because he was the one who saved her and introduced her to the wonderful dream of being a hero, and now she's technically returning the favor. Shigaraki / All For One are desperate at this point, saying that he needs to find a way out as soon as possible. He calls Star a haunting image of All Might, and then lasers keep shooting at him as Nomu come to try and help out with the fight as the chapter ends. So there's a ton of stuff going on in this chapter right now. And see, this is why I love chapters like this. It's the chapters that really just make you think about what's going to happen next and how the villain will be eventually taken down. Now, I'm thinking that Deku could eventually do something similar to this, to where there's going to be a physical battle, of course, but at some point during the final fight, there's going to be some connection between Shigaraki, AFO, and the vestiges between All For One and One For All. And then I feel like this is where the ultimate decision on where Deku kills or saves Shigaraki will eventually happen. Now, whether or not Deku's going to kill or save Shigaraki is really up to Horikoshi, but I think that he's going to save him, simply because I don't think Deku has that killing intent. content in him. And yes, I know he just went through a whole rogue arc, but now he's kind of back down to earth, so I guess it's still up in the air. And so at this point, I think that Shigaraki isn't as OP as we thought he would have been, especially with New Order, but he still has multiple quirks, AFO on his side, and then the League of Villains and all this other stuff. And so yeah, I'm still questioning on how Deku is actually going to end up defeating AFO slash Shigaraki, and whether or not it's going to be in the next couple of chapters, because for all we know, it could happen in part 2 of the series, which I think is still a possibility of happening. But at any rate, that's going to be it for me today, guys. I hope you did enjoy. Hit the like button if you did, and if you want more content similar to this, hit that subscribe button so you can become a part of the Reaper Agency today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sub up, stay safe, and peace.